Hello and welcome to the DecisionWise Engaging People podcast. My name is Justin Warner and I will be the host of today's podcast. Today I'm joined by Senior Consultant Charles Rogel. Charles, thanks so much for being with us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. In this podcast, we are discussing how managers and leaders can effectively create an environment where employee engagement can flourish. Today, specifically, we are touching on how leaders and managers can promote a sense of meaning within their organization. So, Charles, on our survey, we typically ask the question around, does my job provide me a sense of meaning and purpose? Will you mind, kicking us off by help us understand, what does that mean? Describe that. What does it mean to have meaning and purpose in my job?
Yeah, so this is interesting because it can be interpreted in a variety of different ways by people. And so some prime examples of when you think of jobs that have a lot of meaning and purpose would probably be people in healthcare. I just worked with a children's healthcare system, and there's all kinds of meaning just floating around the organization. Helping kids that are sick is about the most meaningful job you can have. But you can also think about maybe a school teacher, a police officer, people that are doing things that they feel like are kind of promoting or have a greater purpose than just the job itself. A couple of things we talk about. So within the training that we do, our engagement magic training, where we train individuals and managers on how to find their own engagement and then apply engagement principles within their teams. We talk about two types of meaning. One is this inherent meaning that I just touched on. So feeling like your job provides a large sense of meaning. You find this, the prime example we use is zookeepers. And so a zookeeper typically requires a 4-year degree in zoology or a related field. And the pay for a zookeeper is about $30,000 a year. So here's a person graduating with a 4-year degree, kind of taking a job that we would consider right above the poverty level. I think, what is it, 26,000 or maybe it's 15,000? I can't remember the exact number. But, it's a relatively low-paying job, but, man, they get to work with animals, which is their favorite thing to do. And so a lot of us inherit meaning in their job. Another example, or the other type of meaning that we talk about, is associated meaning. So, in other words, the job itself doesn't provide meaning, but it helps you accomplish other goals outside of work that are very meaningful to you. And so one example we use in our magic training is a picture of an Uber driver, and you can see, it's kind of from behind in the back of the seat, or back seat, taking a picture forward of the ignition switch, and on the keys, there's a key chain or a little card that's attached to the Uber driver's keychain, and it's from his daughter, and it just says, "Hey, Daddy, thank you so much for working and supporting our family. I love you." And so you can see that the Uber driver values that little statement. It gives him some inspiration and motivation to do his job, even though maybe being an Uber driver doesn't provide a lot of meaning specifically for him.
Hey, Charles, really fast. Does it matter whether it's inherent or associated meaning?
Not really. It kind of matters to the individual. So sometimes people pursue careers that have a lot of meaning, that align with their values. And so that's another activity we do in our training, where we do a values card sort. And so we have about 50 different values that you can kind of choose from. And so it might be, leadership, independence, success, getting things done, a lot of different statements. And then people kind of choose their top 5 values out of this activity. And then we say, well, how many of those values really align with the work that you're doing? And so if you're finding, 3 of them align, that's great. You're finding a lot of meaning in your job that's inherent. If you're not finding many, then maybe your job is more associated. So both work. It's just a matter of people understanding how it works and how much they find, and that really helps them to be more engaged.
Got it. So with this podcast, we want to give tools and resources to managers to be able to help their teams understand what meaning is, and then how can they help their team members, their employees, how can they help them find meaning in their job? Would you mind giving a few ideas that you have? Maybe one for the manager, because you can't teach something you don't have either. So what can the manager do to have understand what meaning is, and then how can they teach or introduce to their employees how they can find meaning?
Yeah, definitely. So from a manager, there's several things, and in fact, one is just understanding that you can influence it. So you might not be able to tell a person help them identify or tell them what their values are, but you can help align their values with the work of the organization. So we have another question on the survey that measures specifically that. How does your manager help you align your values or what's important to you to the goals of the organization? So creating that alignment is important. The first part, though, is just understanding that you as a manager can influence this. You can help them find more meaning in their work. And what we find is that many people don't even think about this topic necessarily, about meaning or purpose. They just kind of show up and go to work and are happy. So the more you can help them kind of connect the dots, the better. Sometimes it's mostly associated meaning. And so you might talk to someone that says, well, I don't know. I don't really care what this organization does. I just need a job. I'm putting my kids through school, whatever the case might be. And we see this a lot in like manufacturing organizations, and that's perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that you're helping them connect the goals of maybe what the paycheck does for them to help, meet their goals outside of the organization. But really, the biggest thing is really asking people, having that conversation to say, hey, what's important to you? Do you find a lot of meaning in the work that you're doing, or don't you? And where, how can we help kind of create more alignment? So the more you understand what makes them tick, and what's really motivating and important to them, the better you'll be able to have them be more motivated in the work that they're doing. Sometimes we also find managers aren't very educated on what the mission, values, and goals of the organization even are. So they're just trying to get their work done. They have a very specific task they need to do with their employees, and they're not thinking as strategically as they should. So I really encourage managers to really get familiar themselves and hopefully align their own work and values with the values of the organization, the strategy of the organization, because the more you can connect the dots for yourself and your employees, the better you'll do.
So, Charles, you see a lot of organizations that, they publish their mission statement, their values or whatever, and it sits on a website or it sits on a wall. How can those managers, really connect those dots? Because this is something we hear a lot in the surveys. Like, I don't know what it is, or it doesn't resonate with me, or what things have you seen out there where managers have been able to connect those dots and really make a difference?
It's hard when the organization maybe didn't put a lot of effort into their mission and values, and they've just been stagnant for the past 10 years, and they don't do any promotion around it. And we'll get to the organization influence here in a minute, but for a manager, it's really trying to translate those, those things for an individual. And I think the best way to do that is for them to really put a face on the outcome of their work. And so if you're creating a product or a solution or service for someone, who's it impacting? Like, who's the end customer? Is it benefiting, an individual? Is it benefiting a kid? Is it helping someone be healthier? So just understanding how you might be able to see them connect with the end user of their services or product is really important. It's kind of that example where people, if you're doing fundraising, people aren't necessarily going to donate to an animal shelter based on numbers and facts and figures. But if you show a picture of a puppy, all of a sudden the money will just flow in. And so it's that individual, it's that face that's really important. And also sharing stories, that really exemplify the mission and values. Stories are kind of the currency that culture really runs on. And so the more you have those stories and experiences to share, the better.
Yeah, that's one of those things we do here at DecisionWise that I think has been really helpful, is sharing stories about our clients, those people that we work with, and what things that they're doing out in the global workspace. Yep. And that helps us all derive meaning from what we're doing. So you alluded to that organizational level. So the manager has an influence over their team and what they can do. What about the organization? How can that organization help promote meaning? And also what managers can do to help the organization where they might not be promoting meaning like they should. So maybe touch on a couple of those areas.
Yeah, so sometimes organizations miss out on this, and it's an important aspect, and so sometimes it doesn't get communicated that well. So a lot of times, organizations think they're doing a really good job when they're communicating the goals, maybe the strategy, the monetary numbers. We're trying to hit these numbers this quarter, these many deliverables, quality numbers, things like that. But what they miss is that employees really don't care about stuff like that. And so to an extent, salespeople do, and maybe, managers, but employees are like, I just like doing my job, people I work with, it's very local to them. And so helping them understand how their work is making a difference for the organization, either the success of the organization overall or the customer that you're serving, is really important. Again, putting a face on the outcome of that work. There's more that it's about the story, about people, about relationships. More human you can make it, the better. So an example, I was working with an organization just recently about that maintains workers' compensation data for the state. And so all the insurance companies basically work with them to understand this data so they can kind of create good actuary tables and understand how to charge, create insurance rates and things like that, but also how to really serve injured workers and get them back to work. And so the opportunity they found is that, hey, there's a lot of meaning in what we do in terms of creating a real healthy workers' compensation environment for the state. And when that is healthy and working well, then we're really able to serve those injured workers, help them get back to work, support their families, recover from their injuries. And we just don't put a face, to the work that we're doing, this topic we talked about before. So they saw a lot of opportunity in creating more meaning around the work that they're doing. It's just not compiling data and serving insurance companies. It's more about serving the injured worker that's kind of secondary to the work that they're doing with their other clients. And so, again, taking it one step further, connecting it with the people that really are being benefited by the work that they're doing. And so, again, for organizations, putting a face on your customer. I've heard other stories, for example, in medical manufacturing facilities where someone just might be at a machine all day creating little devices that they don't quite know what they do. They know they get implanted in patients or things like that. But then maybe you're bringing in those patients that have benefited and their lives were saved because of some tiny little plastic device you created on an assembly line. We don't all, create life-saving devices, but there's definitely a benefit to customers out in the real world.
Great. Charles, I think the last thing, if you wouldn't mind touching on, we hear a lot about social responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe just talk about social responsibility and meaning as well with this as kind of the last bullet point we'll hit on?
Yeah, so sometimes organizations find a tough time. Maybe it is tough to create a face to a customer if you're creating, maybe large industrial pipes or something like that really don't benefit an individual as much or as directly. And so a lot of organizations benefit from serving the community, pitching in and helping with service organizations, nonprofit organizations. And so the more they can align with helping other people, doing extracurricular activities with their employees, promoting service opportunities, getting into a soup kitchen, whatever the case might be, is really important. I know what we did recently was a lot of fun where we organized, or I should say our office manager here organized an opportunity to do kind of a birthday kit for kids that are in homeless shelters or disadvantaged or whatnot. And so it was a lot of fun kind of coming together with ideas. We saw the profile of a little kid and what they were interested in, and we put together kind of a birthday kit for them. So when they had their party and all their friends there were all kinds of party favors and presents and things like that they could use. And so that was a lot of fun to participate in that. Provides a lot of meaning and purpose, and really helps people kind of connect, creates teamwork in the organization, but also contribute in a larger way to something that's meaningful.
That's great. And that's why I really like this topic. It's promoting a sense of meaning. You can't just let it happen. Like it's something we have to go out and we have to promote. People will find meaning, but if we can help promote it and get it to be more important within the organization and connect those dots, like you said, that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So, Charles, thank you for sharing your insights on how we can, as managers and leaders, promote a sense of meaning throughout the organization.
Great. Thanks, Justin. Hey, this is Charles again. I just wanted to make you aware of our new Engagement Magic online training. If you'd like to learn more information about it, go to engagementmagic.com. There you'll see a video explanation as well as an online self-assessment that you can take to measure your own level of engagement. The training itself is designed to help employees and managers own their own engagement and learn the 5 keys that really drive engagement in their work so they can be more successful and happy in their jobs. Thanks, everyone.